Hi, welcome to the DC Finest Justice Society of America, the Plunder of the Psycho Pirate, Gardner Fox, Joe Gallier and Stan Ashmere. And also many others as well. There are lots and lots of different artists in this. In fact, probably too many, but it does actually list them all in the contents. This has got about 607 pages, 608 pages. Wow. $39.99. I paid about 23 quid for it. So let's just go through the book. I think it's just amazing. It covers the 1942 to 1945. Of course, there was an earlier volume. I'm just going to quickly show you the volume. Here's the earlier volume. Really good as well. And this one, of course, got the same sort of thing on the back. You've got 8 issues. There's 12 issues in total, including here. So we've got here issues 13 to 24. And I think in some ways I prefer if they had small thumbnails so you could actually see all the covers. Would have been nicer. But the artwork is fine. I mean, it's Golden Age artwork. It's probably not for everyone. So it's one of those things that if you don't like Golden Age, you probably won't like this. And you can see there all the various issues. And the thing is, it's got obviously sometimes writer unknown, but it does have like the artist John Bloomer. Now that might be for one story, one part of it, that they actually had quite a few odd little bits that seem to not fit in with the rest of the stories. They split them up in odd ways, but still, you got here one's here Sheldon Meldoff, you got Lou, basically the artist that did the comic books themselves, the characters, they're doing the artwork in here, or probably the ones that's certainly most representative for anyway. The weird thing about this, Wonder Woman does feature, but I think there's only one story where she actually gets a story. All the rest of them, she's like in the background, but we don't get any H.G. Peters work particularly. We just get one example. I think there's one example anyway. The stories are fine. Actually, I was quite impressed by some of the artwork. And you've got this story, obviously, early in the World War II, obviously, and Hitler is looking very, very much like Hitler. Quite often, whenever you see comic books, often the characters look completely, utterly different. Hitler very rarely looks like Hitler. And this one, it's got obviously here Green Lantern, Batman, Flash and Superman honorary members, so they're not appearing in this. But Wonder Woman is a secretary, and maybe that's the reason she didn't get stories. But really, I think it's slightly annoying. But they're still great stories, and they're quite inventive. They're very odd. There's certainly nothing like the stories that you get nowadays. I mean, they're just nothing like it. You've got there Cliff Young, it says at the top, Planet Uranus, discovered by, and it gives you a little bit of history as well. I love that. Also, something slightly different. You've got obviously an Iceman character there, very similar to Iceman, of course, in Marvel Comics. But you've got there the Sandman. Now, in this case, Sandman's not drawn by Jack Kirby, whereas in part of it, it is actually drawn by Jack Kirby. But you've got Dr. Midnight, and he goes to a different planet, and you've got Spectre going to a different planet, and so on. Of course, there's a problem. Spectre can't breathe for some weird reason, which I find slightly baffling, but still, I think he should be able to breathe. And you've got Starman, a character that you think would be quite used to going around space. And you've got the Atom, of course, probably a character, really a sort of, he's got some sort of strength, but he's not a superpowered character in any shape or form. But you've got the Spectre there. And it's like, oh, I remember now, that's a vacuum. In all my years of travel, the planets, I've never really examined Pluto. Because he actually gets knocked out where they get him at the start of the story. And he can't breathe. And I'm thinking, well, if he's on Pluto, he can't believe what... No, that's just ridiculous. So anyway... But he's got his great powers. And the thing is in this, it's not like the ones that were in the 1970s where they really went full on sort of weird. Really, Spectre doesn't really do any sort of serious super damage. He sort of hits someone. In the like I say, more modern comics, he would turn them into a tree or something, or whatever, or axe or something. There'd be whole heaps of things, but he can do a lot of sort of powerful things, and yet sometimes he can't seem to really do anything at all. So, but he's a great character. But there is, we actually have some Wonder Woman part of the story, which is good. So there is at least a little bit of Wonder Woman, but unfortunately, it's not that many. I think that was it. You've got Hawkman, you've got, and this one obviously a weird sort of time travel one. They were very inventive. That is the thing that you can look at. They read through everything in. The kitchen sink would go into these stories, and most of them made very little sense. Hitler turning up again, obviously there. He's obviously facing Dr. Fate. I mean, Dr. Fate could best battle him and win the war straight away, couldn't he? But obviously they just couldn't do that. But the artwork, like I say, does vary because, of course, it was, I assume, in most cases done by the artist that was sort of, you know, the one that they used. But also you had this as well, which I think was really nice. Little stories there. Another, was it Hop Harrigan? I was called Hap Harrigan, but Hop Harrigan, based on the strip by John L. Bloomer, now appearing in all American comics. And this is the one thing that when you go through this, and there's Johnny Thunder there, they're mainly battling sort of, like I say, very unusual characters all the way through this. I always love the fact they always put this at the bottom. Follow Johnny Thunder every month. You know, like, sounds like on the internet. Follow my channel sort of thing. Yes, please. In Flash Comics. I feel that this was near enough an advertisement. Sort of more than, so, and then you've got this is a lovely bit where you've got obviously the characters, Dr. Fate, etc. Obviously the girlfriends dressing up as the character Stargirl. Obviously well ahead of their time. They should have had those stories. I don't know what Dr. Fate would have been called. Maybe Fate Girl. I don't know. Fate Woman. They should all be that, shouldn't they? And you've got Hawkman there, of course. I don't think Hawk Girl ever turned up in these. But you've got here, obviously, Johnny Thunder. Now, unfortunately, my issue got, so you can see it's like, whenever I get any of these, they always seem to be bashed. I could have sent it back, but it's the Atom. Again, he's sort of obviously having a bit of, say what? Oh, it's the Atom. I'm glad everyone knows who he is. I mean, he's one of those characters you think, the artwork sometimes is a bit sort of, I mean, that is very sort of rough, isn't it, sort of thing, but yeah, some Jack Kirby. So you've got a bit of Jack Kirby there. I think that, I would say that looks like Jack Kirby. I might be completely wrong. It says Simon and Kirby. Doesn't mean, without looking at the front, but it looks like Jack Kirby's work and Joe Simon. I love it. Absolutely great. Really good. And you got Spectre again. Now, they're all individual stories. And this is one thing slightly different from the way they did it later. And I'm just going to go to a slightly later one. But this is obviously the hardback, the archive series. And these are very good. You can still pick these up reasonably cheaply. And this probably is my favourite of all of them. I'm really looking forward to when these issues finally, I would imagine, probably not next volume, but the volume after will be the stories from this. Now, the artwork, I think, is really very nice in this. But the reason being, of course, it's on nice paper, nice quality paper. I mean, this paper's fine, nothing wrong with it. But this is so much nicer. You can see the stories. They were just great. The Injustice Society of America, you had like the gangs and things. Just the artwork just was a mega improvement over the artwork that was in that one. You got Jack, obviously, Black Canary and all those sort of characters introduced. And the Flash, of course, finally back into the story. And the Green Lantern. I never could understand that, why they would take the characters out. But again, advertising, I guess. I don't know. I don't know what the reason was. But they are brilliant books. Really worth checking out. If you can get a reasonably priced copy, always great to get. You can see there's the artwork. It did look a bit sort of cruder in most cases. But they were all individual, whereas those ones in the later stories were often stories with, you would have two characters. So you have Wonder Woman with Black Canary, or you would have Green Lantern with Black Canary, and so on. They would still have the same problems, because in all these, they virtually always seem to have similar sort of things where they have a bit of a problem initially. And of course, they resolve it. They all rush back to the Justice Society of America place. And then they obviously, in this case, you've got a bit of a Starman there, obviously going there. Johnny Thunder's in trouble. So there's a little bit of conflict, but not much. And again, it tells you that you can go and find Starman. Great advertising, wasn't it? Just constantly pushing all these other ones as well. And you got there, Starman again. And it's just like I say, just great again, Jack Kirby. It looks to me like Jack Kirby. And it does mention Jack Kirby in the front, so I guess it is. This character's a weird boy. I said Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, I think, sort of character. Well, I'm sort of spoiling it a bit. It's obvious, isn't it? I don't think I'm actually spoiling it, because that is just, as soon as I saw it, I didn't even need to read the story. You know when you got a character, and the character's not even really called anything great. He's called the Monster. Really? There was Crime Wave in, which was a character that does turn up later in the Injustice Society, which is a real good character. I don't know if any other characters, but there he is. He's really looking like Mr. Hyde there. I mean, if you don't, it's just any of the films, it always seems dressed like that. So the Starman, they all faced the same character, which I thought was really quite good. You don't see that. You think like the Avengers, where they would have a story and they could all have a chance to beat this character and all build up to the end. That style does not really go there. And this one, obviously a little Western story as well. I say, a real all over the place sort of storylines. Dr. Fate, 1924. That dates it, doesn't it? Not 1923. That would have been a different series, wasn't it? Good old Yellowstone, which I love. And 1932, election year. And they often have this sort of information, just sort of giving a bit of historical things. Well, I guess that's correct. I have no idea. It says election year in the United States. Well, I assume it was, but I don't know. But it's also there. You can see Alexandra, I assume. Oh, Sparta. No, Leonard of Sparta. The 300. All that sort of stuff. And you got obviously Spectre there again. Just brilliant. Absolutely great. And you can see Johnny Thunder. And you can see the general gist all the way through the book. I don't have to show all of it, because it does sort of flow, a similar sort of story all the way through. They all meet up generally at the end, finish off the character. Maybe they escape, those sort of things. So it's a bit of variety. But I think the stories massively improved when they got up to about issue 37. For me, they are some of the best Golden Age comics. They really just suddenly changed from that storyline where it was all separate sort of things to bang into a brilliant story. And I'm just going to show you one of my Golden Age comics, which I absolutely love. All American comics. I don't know what issue, 48. Yeah, 48 it is. But I was going to point it out because it has got Dr. Midnight. Though, weirdly, see, there's some characters that did not appear, and I don't know why. Matt and Jeff, obviously, probably not really going to fit in the Justice Society of America particularly, but Sargon, why didn't he appear in it? Sargon, not a character that appeared. And the Red, White and Blue. They never turned up. You'd think they would have put them in once a while. Maybe not every week. Maybe they could have. And also Paragon. Maybe they couldn't do it. I don't know, for licensing reasons. But you've got the Atom. See the artwork. Actually, the artwork here for the Atom, I think looks so much better than the artwork that was obviously in that comic. It's just strange, but the artwork did improve in the next subsequent issues, I think. And I think there's, like I say, the Atom there. You can see the artwork. I think great stories, though. I really love. But the Green Lantern, of course, didn't appear in there because he had his own comic. I suppose he had Green Lantern comics and that sort of thing. Very odd. But that's the way they did it back then. I really love this book. I'm going to get them all. I am quite certain that as long as they bring them out, of course, if they don't bring them out, I won't get them all, will I? But if they do bring them out, I will be picking these up. And I think it's actually, the one thing I want to quickly check before I finish off. They changed something. They haven't, have they? No, it's still the same. I just suddenly, no, the format there is still the same. I mean, I guess at some point, I'm assuming it's like the Epic, Marvel Epics, all these series, when they go over a period of time, 10, 20 years' time, let's hope these will still be going in 20 years' time, cross fingers. Then they will go through all of them. Will they all keep the same consistent design? They probably change that, I suspect, at some point. Maybe, especially with the Superman film. But I loved it. I still love it. Great set of stories. I enjoyed them when they I won't say when they first came out because I'm not that old, but from the DC Archive set, I did enjoy them then. So 1942 to 1945, arch criminal rises capable of manipulating emotions like lumps of clay. That sounds a bit like a puppet master or someone like that sort of character, doesn't it? Or Mr. Dole or whatever. A whole load of characters. But there's the Atom, Sandman, Dr. Fate, and of course, obviously the Nazis, etc. Which of course, this was the wartime. So obviously the Nazis had lots of very patriotic things, which is absolutely great. This is your enemy. I guess that, even a little Nazi flag there as well. And 1944, so you tell the years, obviously, going through. Wow, just a great little book. And I'm looking forward to the next one. I think next one, Gorilla World. I'm probably wrong on that. It's certainly, Gorilla World is coming up very soon. That is definitely on my list of the ones I'm looking forward to. Are you going to get the book? Have you thought about the book? Or are you going to pass on it and wait for things like the Gorilla World, Spectre, and all those things, and Hawkman, of course, coming out fairly soon. A like or dislike, always appreciated. Please subscribe to the channel. Thank you much. Bye.